Hey everyone, this is Steve from Publish Press. And in this episode of the Publish Press podcast, I'm talking with Seth Rubenstein from the Pew Research Center. Now, Pew Research is a famous organization in the USA which produces all sorts of information on American life, about Americans' religious habits, their health, their voting habits, basically tons of data. And that is put into charts, graphs, PDFs, spreadsheets, you name it. The Pew Research Center is there to produce research and put tons of it online. And Seth has been leading the way in converting all of that information to Gutenberg blocks. He's long been on the bleeding edge of Gutenberg block development, using some of the coolest and newest features as soon as they come out. And so that's what we're talking about in this episode. Seth takes us behind the scenes of some of his work and shows us what an editor will see when they're editing graphs and charts and all this research information for Pew. Hey, Seth, welcome to the Publish Press podcast.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Do you mind introducing yourself quickly? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. I'm Seth Rubenstein. I'm the lead engineer at the Pew Research Center. I manage a team of other developers, and we run the day-to-day operations of pewresearch.org, and we build their web platform.
I feel like Pew Research is something that I always hear when I'm watching the news kind of in the background. What exactly is it? What do you do?
So Pew Research Center is, well, we call ourselves a nonpartisan fact tank. We compile facts about the American public for the American public. So we kind of let the public know where their neighbors and where people across the country are on various topics and issues.
So you collect enormous amounts of data on just American life in general?
Yeah, we kind of collect a lot of data on kind of the American public. We put out a lot of polls to the American public. We can have a polling group that we ask people questions about things about various topics, and we present our findings.
I think I've seen you work with lots of election data and maybe some religious research as well. You have like a big study of religious life in America coming up. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we have a large kind of religious census of the United States that we do every 10 years. It's called the Religious Landscape Study, and it's up for an update. And so at the end of February, a new religious landscape study will be launching.
So if people know about you in the WordPress community or anything, it's going to be your love of Gutenberg or your promotion of Gutenberg. You're probably one of the top 2 or 3 promoters of the platform out there. Can you tell us a little bit about why you picked it for Pew Research? Why are you so heavily invested in the block ecosystem in WordPress?
Yeah, we're really heavily invested in blocks. We're really heavily invested in Gutenberg and the block editor and the site editor as concepts because they're really good for us as an engineering team, us as an organization, us as a kind of a web publisher. The first time that we really dove into blocks, it was pretty clear that for the first time, WordPress was going to offer up an idea for how to have an MVC structure for what you were making for WordPress, right?
Oh, hold on a sec. You say an MVC structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, model view controllers. So, with block.json, you kind of have a model. And obviously with render PHP, you got your view. And then with your editing, you've got your controller. And so this was just a really good spec for me as a manager of other developers to kind of send to other junior developers that maybe don't know WordPress that well. They don't know PHP that well, but they do know JavaScript. Go make this thing, right?
And that's an MVC approach is easy for any kind of developer to work with if they have a little experience. They have a certain pattern to channel their development into.
Yeah, it's a pattern to develop against. It's a kind of an ethos to creating functionality to make sure that's scalable and easy to maintain for many years. And for us, that's really important because obviously, our content goes back to the 80s. So our website is eternal, and so the functionality needs to work.
So the amount of data you have on your site is infinite almost. It's enormous amount of data.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
What about for the people who are actually putting the stuff on the website? What about the editors? What's the benefit for the block editor for them?
For our internal users, for our main customer, which is actually not the public, for my team, our main customer is our editors. for them, they get a visual editing experience. They get to speed up their work that much more. They don't have to mess with shortcodes. They don't have to mess with custom fields or settings pages to make the homepage or whatever. What they see is what they're going to get. And this lets us build interfaces and tools for them to quickly do whatever they want to do. So that's definitely, that's sped up our production. I can tell you that significantly.
Oh, so do you have an example of this you could show us?
Sure.
I seem to remember you saying once in one of your talks that your goal was to kill the settings page. You didn't want people jumping from where they were writing a post to a settings screen, then back to the post, then to the preview. If people are using a block, everything will be able to respond more quickly. They'll be able to visually see what they're working on.
Yeah, actually, I can give a demo kind of our homepage system. Wonderful. I think this is an area that where we struggled the most with production before because it's a very visual thing. It connects to a lot of different data, a lot of different posts. But managing that before was kind of a big ACF complex settings page that was daunting and overwhelming. So let me bring up a homepage.
So something like ACF for advanced custom fields is very powerful, but it's not exactly visual or particularly easy for people to edit.
And it's not exactly what I would call intuitive. If you don't know WordPress and you don't know kind of the user interface paradigms of WP admin of old, then it's not exactly intuitive. So let me share this tab. There we go. And I'll show you how we produce homepages. So you see here, every homepage is a post. The latest homepage post gets displayed on the homepage, and I will go in here and.
So you're not working with one single homepage that gets updated. You have multiple homepages for each date almost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So every change to a homepage is a post. What they can do is they can take the existing homepage and say duplicate that so that you can kind of continue with yesterday's homepage content. And then here you'll see. And let me go ahead and open up the homepage as well.
That is incredibly visual. What you're showing us there is almost identical to what you see on the front of the site.
Yeah, so here is our front page, and here is our editing interface for it, right? So the editor sees really is what they're going to get.
Exactly, yeah.
Down to our newsletter signups, we have a core query block on this page. All of this is just all in the editor. And so, I could go into a really in-depth demo here of how this kind of process would go, but I think this is pretty clear how easy this would be to use. So let's say I have a new story for tomorrow's front page. Let's just go. I'm going to go grab a post from my posts. Let's say this one, right? And we've built in a bunch of different kind of link tools and cross-data tools with our homepage system and our story item block. This was actually one of the first blocks we ever created. So I'm going to copy this post URL. This is the edit URL. You could use the preview link. You could use a publish link, whatever you want. And I'll go ahead and delete this. And for the editor, they just type in story item. And we're going to pick the lead one because that has some settings. And they paste in the URL, and it's going to give them exactly the post that they want. They click this and it pulls in the post. Wow. So all you got to do is drop in a link and there you go. They didn't even have to drop in the story item. The edit link. You could just drop in. I could be typing and drop in a post link, and we detect that this is coming from this is a link to pewresearch.org, and we say, actually, you're going to use this block when you paste in this text. So we automatically grab that for them. That took 30 seconds, if that.
So you have a site which I presume is getting massive traffic throughout the US elections, for example, and probably will be again when your big religion survey comes out early next year. And that's all being done through fairly non-technical people editing just with a drag and drop interface here.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So, that's I think one really good example of what Gutenberg has brought to WordPress. I think anyone that's worked in this space for a while can imagine how you might have done that sort of page construction before. A bunch of shortcodes, or maybe a bunch of ACF repeater fields, or whatever. it didn't look like that and it wasn't as quick as that. And it was most likely prone to being broken by users. They can only put on a page what we want them to be able to put on a page. And that's just huge.
So you have enormous amounts of data on the site. You have decades and decades of this data. Are you very heavy on charts and visualizations?
We are, yeah. We are known for our charts throughout. I think the news space. You'll see our charts referenced in newspapers and used on news websites a lot. And one of our main plugins is actually our chart builder plugin. We do this all in the block editor. So let me share my screen again, and we'll pull this up. For us, as I said, blocks are a spec to develop against for all of our functionality. So when we build a block, it can't be used just in the editor. It has to be able to be used programmatically and dynamically by other developers on our team. And so charts are a good example of that. Let me pull open a few charts. So what I'm about to show is our chart builder plugin and our charts block. And I'll also show a little bit of our religious landscape study. So let's go take a look at an existing chart. And for us, charts is a post type, and it works a lot like reusable block post type almost. Whatever goes into this post type can be referenced in any other post. And not only that, you can kind of edit the contents of these posts inside of other posts as you're working. So that if you have a data update for a chart, that can propagate wherever that chart is used. So let's just take a look at this mobile phone ownership one. Okay, so this is our chart builder plugin. And I'm just going to preview a simple mobile phone ownership chart. This is some of the data that we collect about the American public. And it starts off really simple. It is a table block. This is how editors can add data to charts. We use a third-party block called Flexible Table Block. Highly recommend it. It has keyboard shortcuts for adding new rows. It has a bunch of great interface elements that the core table block doesn't have. One of the other things that we do is we add a import CSV functionality to this block and to core table as well, so that editors can just drag and drop a CSV in here, and that imports all the data into the table. That's a lot of data input manually, so this makes it a little bit easier. And then it comes down to our chart block.
Oh, wow.
And this gets data in real time from the table block, so that if I go in here and say, actually we're at 100% smartphone penetration, that
sounds realistic.
That updates in real time, right? It's like if we did this, you could see here, right? That went down pretty significantly. So for designers, for editors, what this experience used to be is this used to be a big meta box at the end of these chart posts with high charts JavaScript object that you had to type in manually. And that broke a lot. People would easily break that. You missed a colon, you missed a quotation mark here, that chart just didn't work. So once again, they can't break this. There are options here, and there's a lot of options. There's a lot of customization for these charts. You can see designers can pick how they want everything to be. I don't even know all the different chart things that this thing can do. The designers know more about this than I do. You can pick what tooltips you want to show. If you want to show them at all, or what position they need to, if they need to be offset or something, you can do that. There's just an insane amount of customization here. And this is just in the editor experience, right? So that's just a good example of our chart builder plugin, how it can scale from the editor to developers' needs. I think that's one of the really powerful things about blocks is that you kind of have this interface for both editors and this kind of contained thing that developers can use, almost a component. It's almost like a React component, really, is how we treat them. And that's just one data visualization product. We build quizzes, we build maps, we build other databases. This religious landscape study database I just showed you, that actually is getting rebuilt right now, all in blocks. And we can share more about that in the new year. Has
it worked? Have you found that the actual pace that your team are able to publish, the amount of requests coming to the developers have reduced?
Yes.
Has blocks actually improved the performance of the Pew Research team?
Yeah, in a number of ways. I can start off with the engineering team. The number of requests that come to us have reduced because we don't have to go make page templates for you guys. We don't have to go fix things. It doesn't look right. You can just go in and change the font size yourself. You can change the paddings and all these things. For the designers, they're now kind of prototyping page templates out in the site editor first, so they can kind of see exactly how that's going to work before they come to us and say, we need a new feature. No, you don't. You can do it with the tools that you have. Blocks has really shifted us, our team, into we build and maintain tools for editors, for designers, rather than we are daily maintaining the website. They maintain the website, and Gutenberg has given us the ability to make tools for them to do so. That's kind of our viewpoint on that.
Do you find yourself still on the bleeding edge? I know you were one of the very early adopters of Gutenberg itself. Are you continuing to hit the bleeding edge of the new features that are coming to Gutenberg?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people that know I'm a big proponent of the interactivity API. I talked about that a lot this last year.
What does it do?
The interactivity API is this fantastic new API in WordPress for blocks, and it lets you, let's just call it a WordPress flavor of React to make it kind of bring it down and make it easy to understand for the front end. And what this lets you do is kind of hydrate your JavaScript-driven applications on the server before they get rendered to the client. And some people will maybe scoff at my description here. This is server-side React components for WordPress.
React is what's used to build Gutenberg in the admin area. But you're pushing this technology to the front end of WordPress as well?
Yes, to the front end for the viewers, right? So React is how we build the editing interface of Gutenberg. And the interactivity API is going to be how we build the front end interface for your visitors off of these blocks. And with it, they can interact with each other. Interactivity API blocks can interact with other interactivity API blocks. And they can kind of nest down and get information and actions from each other. So really, I mean, a good way to think about this is they can be treated like React components. You could put an interactive block inside of another interactive block. And because it's in this other interactive block, it performs differently than if it were in this other interactive block. And we've operationalized that across our website, across our platform. Everywhere you look, we are running the interactivity API. There's only a few products we don't use that with currently that will get converted next year. So like if you go to, let me show you.
So this is making WordPress pages much more dynamic?
Much more dynamic and faster, better performing, because what you're not going to get is that render paint in effect, right? If you have JavaScript on a page, it loads after the page has been loaded. This will kind of let you do things, hydrate those changes or those templates or how it looks before the client side rendering starts, and then it kind of parses that in after the fact. So, for example, here on our publications page, we have, this is a block. This is a block we call facet template. This is another block called facet template. Each of these facets is a template. Within them is an interactive block to display their interface component. In this case, a checkbox. In this case, a radio box, right? Or in this case, kind of drop down search field. Here we go, like research teams. These are all blocks that the facet system dynamically generates. And all of them are talking to each other with the interactivity API. So that as you select things, they say, oh, you can't make the selection here, whatever. And it's fast too. I think the best part about the API is the hydration part. So here I've made my selections right, and the page is updated.
Can you explain that quickly? What do you mean by hydration?
Sure. So, this block has a state to it. It's selected, right? And as you select these, that state changes in JavaScript. In other methods, when this page loads with these selections already selected in the URL, right, report in this region and so on and so forth, the page would load. And then it would paint in your selections to these React components. Well, now that gets hydrated on the server so that the client is aware of the state before it even needs to run. So here we go. I reloaded the page and you saw there was no kind of paint in there for those selections. They were already selected. They were already bolded because it had already been rendered effectively on the server and then spliced in on the client side when it was ready. So one of the big metrics for your Google ranking is web paint time and kind of I can't remember the metric name, but how much your page shifts when it paints. This resolves that so that you don't have any page shift. Cumulative layout shift or something like that. So this resolves for that because you can account for that now. So there shouldn't be much shift because all that has been hydrated or rendered ahead of time. So the interactivity API is a big area where we're big proponents and we're kind of pushing the edge there. Every single day we build interactivity API blocks and we continue to push the limits of that API. We work with the team behind the interactivity API too to help figure out how can we make this more extensible for developers and what kind of things can you do with it.
You're one of the guinea pigs almost of really pushing the boundaries of what is possible.
Guinea pigs on this, yeah. I think it's safe to say we're probably the biggest site that uses the interactivity API, and we use it everywhere. So if you go to pewresearch.org, you click around and something changes, that was most likely the API.
Are we going to be able to see any of this available for other publishers? Are you looking to make any of your work available for other publishers to download and use?
Yes. A number of our plugins are already available open source for kind of, let's call them technical knowledge reasons. So our quiz builder plugin, our chart builder plugin, much of what makes our entire platform run and our block library are all open source. Getting those to run is a little bit harder because we do have some kind of internal dependencies that we can't release yet for licensing legal reasons. We're working on those. But in the new year, we're hoping to have playground blueprints for the chart builder plugin that I showed, our quiz builder plugin, a number of things just so that people can get an idea of how those work in the editor for themselves, more than just looking at the code.
So what that means is people will be able to click a link and get a pre-populated WordPress site with these chart plugins ready to test and ready to see how they work.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else coming up in Gutenberg that you're excited for?
The biggest things I'm excited for are seeing phase 3 completed. Collaboration and real-time collaboration and kind of inline editor commenting is going to be huge for everyone. I don't think people are appreciating really what a seismic shift real-time collaboration will be when it drops. How many times, I don't know about you, how many times have you had to step in and help an editor out in the editor and you said, hey, can you get out? Can you get it out of the editor so I can get in here? I have to do this so many times a day. And that one thing, you won't have to do that in the future. Multiple people will be able to be in an editor at once. I think that's a huge thing. Beyond that, the editor comments functionality that's coming with that, I think is going to be really big for us. I can't really speak for other people. We're still a very print and PDF heavy workflow. Our researchers write Microsoft Word. They make PDFs of the report. And then we have web producers make that web friendly. They put that into WordPress. They put that in the editor and they make that web friendly. This year, that's going away. This year, we're onboarding our editors and our writers in WordPress, and they're going to start there and they'll write their web first. But we need track changes. We need editor comments to replace Word, right? So that functionality brings us a long way to doing that.
You're literally flipping the team's workflow from PDF first to website first.
Yeah. Nobody reads our PDFs. So we realized that having a PDF workflow was not really great, and having a web first workflow made the most sense. But now we're really at a place that we can make that happen. Before that, I think that we're required too much work we're a small organization. We have limited resources. That would have required too many products for us to have to buy or pay for continuously. And this kind of gives us all of that for free in WordPress, and then all the extensibility that WordPress offers so that we can customize it to our own needs, That's the thing I'm most excited about.
2025 is going to be a good year for Gutenberg.
Yes, I think so.
And awesome. Okay. I really appreciate all you've done to promote Gutenberg and keep it moving forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the new stuff you're putting out next year. Final question for you. You're a 9.9 publisher. We do a lot of 9.9 publishing. And at the end of each episode, we're asking for a call out for someone really good or a publication that's really good you read online lately. Do you have an online publisher that you're really reading and liking at the moment?
Besides pewresearch.org. I would say, ProPublica. Let me just give a shout out to ProPublica. I love ProPublica. They're a very mission-oriented journalistic institution like ourselves. And I think, now more than ever, ProPublica's mission is critically important. Beyond that, they also have just a great website, and they produce a lot of web tools and databases and ways to kind of dive into their journalism on the web in interactive ways that I just think are really, really great, really accessible for the public.
There's a big philosophical and operational overlap between Pew Research and ProPublica.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. All the best in 2025.
You as well.